Hello and welcome to the Tech in the Hood podcast. I'm your host, Ahmed Flex Omar. Tech in the Hood is a storytelling podcast that explores the past, present, and future of Chicago's cultural identity through conversations about community and technology. Each week, I reconnect with the friends and mentors who have shared this journey and spotlight new voices and innovators building the future of the Tech in the Hood. Back to Tech in the Hood, the show that brings you all things art, business, culture, and of course, technology. Today with me is my friend Lauren Mogul, and Lauren is a lead bioinformatician. I knew I was gonna mess up, but that's okay. It's a podcast. We keep rolling at University of Chicago.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Bioinformatician.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a big word.
Big word.
It's a lot.
People, I mean, I'm sure you get this a lot.
Yes,
people
all the time. I usually just say scientist to make it simpler. But yeah, bioinformatics is basically the marriage of biology and genomics or any sort of omics, right? Or and computer science. So like the tools that you need to analyze and process all of these big data sets. So
now, did you always know you're gonna work in the
not at all
being a scientist?
Nope. That was not the intention. I started college like all of us other pre-med people in biology, and I met my mentor at the Sunday meetup brunch at Loyola, which we have in common.
My alma mater.
Yeah.
Shout out to Loyola.
Yeah.
Or as in Chicago, as we say it, Loyola.
So we met, and he introduced bioinformatics to me, which I had no idea about. It was also a very new field at the time. And the rest is history. I took the MCAT and decided right afterwards that I wanted to pursue research. And I didn't go to med school, and I went to grad school. So surprised everyone.
Surprised everyone. And by surprised everyone, was it your parents or just everyone?
It was my parents. I think my professors were just waiting for me to realize, because I was doing research from my freshman year until up through my senior year, and loved it. So yeah.
Very, very cool. You know, so you had to take biology classes and then
computer science classes. Yes.
You know, at that time, how was the computer science department at Loyola?
It was pretty good, but it was definitely more geared for computer scientists. So you had, I was taking computer science courses with computer science majors. So, and I was also learning like very basic computer science. So using C++, Java, Perl. So all of the new programming languages were not even taught in the curriculum back then, because I'm dating myself.
It's all right. It's all right.
Because the field was new. It wasn't even really accepted in the science field in the early mid 2000s. It was around like the sequencing boom. So like when genome sequencing, all of those technologies, the sequencing technologies, when they became cheaper, more accessible, and when people were really like, oh, this is really the next step in understanding biology and understanding disease and all of that, that's when bioinformatics became a lot more accepted and a lot more exciting as a field. So yeah, it's been very cool to see the transition over the last 15 years.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah.
So and then you did your bachelor's at Loyola. And then what did you do after that?
So after that, I went to the Mayo Clinic, and I have my...
Was this in Minnesota?
It was in Rochester, Minnesota. And I worked in the lab of Jim Maher. So we worked on understanding DNA flexibility and understanding why it bends and twists the way it does in a cell and why we can't replicate that in a test tube. I mean, he does a lot more work than that, but that was specifically my project. I worked on a lot of things there. I tried to incorporate my bioinformatics background. So we tried to develop like a high throughput way to understand DNA flexibility.
And what tools were you using in the lab?
I was at the bench. So I was doing experiments. And the one thing you're told is if it looks like Kool-Aid, don't drink it. But yeah, so I was working with DNA, isolating it from, different organisms, mainly working with bacteria. So bacteria is a really good way to study DNA because it's very simple. And we've been using bacteria for a long time to understand, the process of how things work in a cell. So, yeah.
That's interesting. What about from a technology standpoint?
So we were using, things were pretty simple at the bench. So things have gotten a lot better. There are robots that can do what I did in grad school. So
There's robots now?
There are robots now. So there's a lot of new technologies that have been developed and a lot of new machines that have been developed to do the DNA isolation, to sequence hundreds of thousands of things, to do like massively parallel analysis and assays that I was just doing by hand. So
yeah, I mean, for 2023 and everyone's talking about AI and people just woke up to AI because of ChatGPT. Yep. So how do you feel about AI? Is it replacing people's jobs? Is it?
It depends. Yeah. I think right now, because it's so new, people are nervous about it, right? Because it can learn, and a news article comes out and it's like, oh, it can pass the bar, and it's like, okay, sure, it can do that, but can it adapt in terms of like a people to people situation? And that's a no, not yet.
ChatGPT is not going to argue in front of a jury.
Right, exactly. ChatGPT is not going to like diagnose you in a hospital setting. So I think there's a lot of potential in terms of using that technology and making things better, especially in the big data field. So going back to the bioinformatics, and after the Mayo Clinic, I went to Loyola again for my postdoc, and I worked on a population genetics modeling tool. And again, AI would be really great in that setting. So being able to predict variants that are associated with disease in the cancer setting. So after my postdoc, I went to Tempus Labs, and they're a precision oncology company, and they work directly with physicians, oncologists, and what Tempus provides is data to those oncologists based on that specific patient. So the patient's tumor sample is sent in, it's sequenced, it goes through a bioinformatics pipeline, it gets analyzed, and it gets analyzed for the mutations that are driving that cancer, the clinical trials that, based on the mutation profile, the clinical trials that those patients are eligible for, new drugs, drug targets that they're eligible for. So we're moving past the chemo and radiation death sentence that cancer was. We're moving into survival and longer survival. And yes, early detection is important, but if we can develop more of these targeted drugs and continue extending these people's lives, you get to a point where cancer is just another diagnosis that you can treat, which is very exciting. So,
absolutely. And then It's called Precision Medicine.
Yes.
You said.
Yes.
And is that a growing field?
Oh yeah, that's the goal, I think, for the field, or even in medicine today, right? Like we want to treat people as individuals. And speaking as not a physician, the idea is to, as somebody on the data side, doing the data analytics, to provide physicians with as much information as possible to personally treat that patient and cater a treatment plan to that person, and not just a general group.
Right.
So
you see, I don't know if it's happening already, but maybe in the future, physicians will walk around with an iPad that has all that information.
It's starting to happen now, especially with cancer, and hopefully with other diseases in the future. But I mean, people who are diagnosed with some pretty horrible cancer diagnoses are surviving much longer.
That's
now.
Incredible.
And I mean, I've seen it firsthand with family friends who are fortunate enough to have this technology at this time. So yeah,
Absolutely.
pretty great.
Yeah. And
it's only going to get better.
Yeah, no, that is heartwarming, and it's good to hear. With the startup, was that your first startup?
It was my first startup. It was my first job out of school, right? Okay. So the postdoc is like post-doctoral learning still. And that's where I kind of got back into the bioinformatics. So I went from the wet bench to the dry bench. And then the startup was where I got really into tool building and the bioinformatics, and really trying to understand cancer and what we can do. And I think the model is good. And understanding cancer at the genomic level is important. So
for sure. And was that almost like early days for health tech?
A little bit, yeah. So there were only, at the time when that startup was founded, there were only like one or two other precision medicine cancer companies out there, and now there are many. Many. But it was the one in Chicago.
It was the one in, It was just the one in Chicago.
It was the one in Chicago. And they partner, they're still around. They partner with pharma companies to get research samples, and hospitals and physicians, and some of my friends who are oncologists actually work with them. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, the world is small. The science world is small.
And then, so was that a VC funded type of company? And initially, there was angel funding, seed funding, and I think they are still considered a startup, even though they've been around for 8 or 9 years. I mean, because the field is still new.
They're still private, and they're doing good work. So
awesome. And then any startup stories you want to share with us?
There's a lot of startup stories. There are a lot of late nights and a lot of crazy fun things that happen in the startup world. The wet bench life. You get some crazier stories because you're working with chemicals. Sometimes you can get chloroformed by accident. There was one time I was using a UV box. So to visualize where DNA is, you use UV light and a stain. And I ended up getting like a sunburn all over my face because I put my face around in front of the UV box, and I was there for a longer time than expected. So I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh no, like an actual sunburn. Crazy things happen in the lab. Crazy things happen in the dry lab. Sometimes you can get hacked, and it's dangerous. So never publish your creds to GitHub Yeah.
That's interesting, right? Because
So there's a lot of security measures in place, and like places like Tempest and places like my current
right.
places.
Because developers tend to publish, their code on GitHub because that's their online, resume.
Yep.
If you want to find out what projects they've worked on, you just go to their GitHub and check it out. And a lot of them put out stuff out there, for open source, so they can collaborate, with others. And it's grown, so much. I mean, I have a little bit of a programming background, so but that's interesting. I never really thought about the cybersecurity around.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
GitHub.
You learn as you go.
Yeah. I leave that for like my chief information officer.
Exactly.
So, and he's the one that's in charge of like putting all that stuff on Google Cloud and Kubernetes and making sure that everything is secured. I just need to have like a baseline now and knowledge. I mean, in case something happens, then I can jump in.
Exactly.
So, but it's that's really interesting. And then you went to U Chicago.
I did. So I have been at U Chicago for almost 4 years. I started in January 2020, which was
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's a big year.
Definitely a big year.
So at U Chicago, I work for this place called the Center for Translational Data Science. And we host at least 20 different data commons. So these like very large data sets. And I think we have about 1.7 petabytes of data, which is a lot.
How many?
1.7 petabytes. So that's
petabytes.
Yeah. So we're
people don't hear that.
Right.
A petabyte is how many bytes? Or how many gigabytes? Or how many?
Oh man, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I have to do that conversion in my head, but yeah.
It's all stored in the cloud.
It's all stored in the cloud.
Thank God, because that would be a big
you can't
server closet room.
Yeah. No, we store it in the and we have a lot of different data commons. So we have like an IBS, we have some COVID, we have the entity that I work for, which is the GDC, which is the Genomic Data Commons. It's the National Cancer Institute's initiative to provide a unified source of cancer data to everyone to kind of pursue that precision medicine route. So what we were talking about before, where you have the cancer precision medicine companies, we're kind of at the front end of that, where we provide research materials for users. So you can, anybody, it's an open source commons, which I think to me is really important, because if you can provide everyone who wants access, whether you're a researcher or even just curious, but mostly if you're in the research field, you have all of this information at your fingertips, and you can pursue whatever you want to pursue in the science field, right? Like, so if you're looking at, GI cancer in people over 40, you can pull down a data set of sequences that were sequenced all over the country, even in not even all over the country, in the world maybe. And we process it all in the same way. So you can just pool all that data together and it's yours, right? Like, you can do the analysis. You can ask somebody else to do the analysis, but you have all of that at your fingertips. And then from there, you can develop that drug. You can look for a biomarker. You can look for new mutations that we hadn't seen before in that specific cancer. And so there's a lot you can do when you don't have to seek out that data yourself. So we hope the service is providing some good work. And it was actually part of, back then, President Biden's Cancer Moonshot Initiative. So he actually visited the center in 2016. And there's many pictures of him with our center lead, Bob Grossman, and then my boss, Senyu Zhang. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. We're hoping he comes back.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, maybe after election season.
After election season. He's busy.
He's busy. A little bit. So you've mentioned earlier, there's robots now doing the sequencing, right? Mm-hmm. And with all the information that you just, shared, that is really exciting now to how AI can play a role. I mean, it's almost like, a brilliant assistant.
Yes. Yeah. And we are using like machine learning and AI tools also. I mean, it's definitely, again, in the research area. Yeah. I know they're trying to do that in a more corporate setting, and I think there's progress. But again, if we can use that machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to understand cancer better, right, and to really pick out like the true mutations, then we can do better downstream, right? Like, so if we really use that to our advantage, we can do a lot more, and we can understand a lot more, a lot faster. So more drugs will be developed faster. There will be more options for people who get diagnosed with cancer. And I think the beauty of that is like, you don't have to have one person. Humans are not built to do that kind of analysis. Yeah. We need computers. And if we have those tools, I mean, we can do amazing things with it. So
very cool. Mm-hmm. We'll rewrite the narrative.
Yeah. It's not so scary.
It's not.
You can use it to your advantage.
You can use it. Well, like any tool, right? It just depends on the intent.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah. You have to use your powers for good. For
sure. I mean, you can talk about how we met, right?
Yeah, that's true.
MALA, the Muslim American Leadership Alliance, which I was a, founder. And we met because you're also working with AJC, American Jewish Committee. Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit more about AJC.
Sure. So AJC is the leading global Jewish advocacy organization. Mm-hmm. And we have 3 pillars. We have promoting Israel's place in the world, combating anti-Semitism, and promoting pluralism and democratic values. And, we've obviously seen an uptick in discrimination and hate over the past many years. And we try to form connections, whether it's intergroup, interfaith, international, mm-hmm. And create a space of dialogue and understanding and bridge building, right? So we all are more common than we think, and our differences are very small. And I think most of the world just wants to live together in harmony. And meeting people like you and working together, I think, really does make an impact and really shows everybody that, yes, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but mm-hmm. you can have a lot of really wonderful things happen when we band together.
And it's important for groups such as AJC and MALA to do that work because the media does not tend to focus as much on those, stories. I mean, if
Not as sexy.
yeah,
as
it's not as, you can't sensationalize.
Drama and destruction.
People are nice to each other. Oh,
Right.
they're just
People
food.
want to work together.
They're just foodies. They're
It's
eating.
true.
Yeah, they're just hanging out. So yeah, I mean, that was my passion of why I started Mala, is because I just saw an endless amplification of hate, and I was like, I mean, that's part of the experience, but I have a lot of great, experiences. And also, I grew up in Abu Dhabi,
Yeah.
in the Emirates, and I grew up with people from over 200 nationalities. So my experience was really, unique. That you really got to network with so many people, and just realized there's just not many, differences. And in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, even now, but especially at that time, there was just wars all around us.
Right.
You got the Iran-Iraq war. I mean, you got apartheid in South Africa. We went to an international school, and we had kids from all these countries, and everybody coexisted, peacefully. Obviously, as kids, there's gonna be schoolyard fights. I mean,
Right.
we're boys, right?
Of course.
But at the end of the day, we found a way to get along. And so when I came to Chicago, over the years, I just, noticed, wow, Chicago's really segregated, and everybody's doing their own thing, and culture is different in America. People are more individualistic, come from a collective, society. And I just couldn't find a Muslim organization that I felt that I belonged to, and I wanted one where I'm able to network with people that are like-minded. And so that was key, and chose storytelling, and because I just felt like once people got to know each other, they're gonna look and see the human being, not the stereotypes, right? There's
Exactly.
big focus on stereotypes and what the media portrays people as, and so that was really awesome. And I met Barbara and Dale from AJC because we were doing a storytelling night at the Chicago History Museum. And that's
Very cool.
how the journey started, and I've got to meet so many folks from your community. Well, I feel like now I belong to the community
Yes.
because I have so many AJC friends. But what really struck me was the invitation to synagogues in Lakeview and Shabbat dinners and so on. And I was like, wow, it's really a great way to just learn about the community. And then I remember the prayers, and I'm a native Arab speaker. I speak Arabic fluently. I'm like, oh, this sounds very familiar. And then you're like, Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic. I'm like, oh, the language are cousins. So
Yep. Yeah, it's true.
and it's interesting, right? So with Arabs, there is no Arab race. It's people that are bond together through tribes that speak the language. These are the Arabic-speaking, tribes. So I was like, oh, interesting. This is so if the languages are cousins, what does that make us? And I also was born in an interesting part of the world, right? In East Africa, and there's like biblical, stories of Queen Sheba and so on, so from that land, so the more stories, that, we shared, it's like, oh my God, we gotta, find a way, to do more, to bring, people together. And it was really exciting to have so many young people from the Muslim, community come and network and, meet folks such as yourself and AJC people. So I definitely look back fondly on this.
And we do too. I think even now, my journey is similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, I'm a Moroccan Jew, so Jews come in all flavors.
Yeah.
So there's
Jews are not a monolith.
Jews are not a monolith. There are Black Jews, there are Asian Jews, there are Moroccan Jews, there's Iranian Jews, from all over.
Sure.
So not everybody is the stereotypical, Eastern European Jewish person.
Yeah.
So my traditions are Moroccan, and I was also looking for community, and AJC was the community that I found most interesting because of that connection, because of the interfaith, intersectionality aspect, because I had the pleasure of, with AJC, going to Morocco for the first time, and my family hasn't been back since the 80s, and realizing that I was very much raised Moroccan, and a lot of my values come from that culture, and, you know, that close-knit, very attached family life, which is not as common in America. And it was amazing. It was like, wow, like I understood my grandmother more, but I also felt like a kinship and family. And again, it comes down to, again, we all have those connections, and doing more of that together, and bringing the things we have in common to our places of origin, or places that mean a lot to us. So bringing tech to Morocco.
Yeah.
Bringing more tech to the UAE.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, I think we have a lot of things in common. And I think AJC also helped me form those connections at my workplace, right? Like, so it's very hard. And for a long time, I didn't out myself as Jewish in the workplace. I was already struggling because I'm usually the only woman in the room, in a very male-dominated field, and then having the skills to have those conversations and really talk to each other, and, you know, be a part of each other's cultures, inviting each other to our respective holidays and gatherings and Shabbat dinners. I mean, it's a great way to just form connections and really get to know people and understand the beauty of not only your own personal religion or culture, but everybody else's, right? Like, it's a really special thing to be a part of, and I'm glad we met.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're friends. And
absolutely. And tech in the Middle East. So I went back last year to Somaliland and also the UAE, and experiences were really interesting, right? So there's a really high adoption of technology in the UAE. Actually, when I was growing up there, we always got the latest technology for everyone, else, just because they would tested in a market that was interested in premium, products, so it was good for research, and it's also, they knew they were going to sell, right? And so when I went there, I've been gone for about 22 years. So a lot has happened, kept in touch through Google Earth, but nothing prepared me for just seeing the change that the UAE went through, and it was beautiful to experience that, and go to the Museum of the Future. And it was just an incredible experience, Burj Khalifa, all of that. But then also realizing that the old Dubai was still there, the old souk was still there, so that was really heartwarming, because I didn't want to feel like my entire childhood was wiped out.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't grow up in Dubai, I grew up in Abu Dhabi, but my grandmother is Emirati from Dubai, so we'd visit her a lot. And Dubai was not as developed as Abu Dhabi, but there were still things to do. And because it's so hot, everything is centered around malls and mall life, right? Because you got to be in that air conditioning space, So being in that mall in Dubai and, seeing that indoor, almost like ski resort, that brought back, some memories too, because when I was in high school, I had a summer job and I was working for a company that was doing research on that. And they didn't give us any details. And I was always curious. I'm like, why is there all this interest in a ski resort? I'm like, okay, I'll try to figure something out. It's not like I'd Google at the time or I'd ChatGPT or anything. It was just basic HTML. And, I guess the search engine at the time was Yahoo.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so going way back, So I was like, aha, this was the project, So
wow.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
It is really cool, and I could be completely off, but I have a hunch because it just did not make any sense. I'm like, why are we doing this work? He's like, don't worry about it, just do this work.
Yeah.
So, but going back there and then now seeing like the investments that is being made in the future of work, they embraced crypto, metaverse, just always big on sustainability. So when I left Mala, I just decided, let me just take a break and check things out over there and reconnect with family and friends. And upon my return, I said, okay, well, I gotta start my tech company, now, because there's a lot, that I can do, because there's a gap, right?
Right.
So when I went to, Africa, to East Africa, people are tech savvy, to a point, but you can tell like the technology, just the broadband technology that we have here, you compare it, to certain places in Africa, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not even close, but the rate of adoption for any new technology is really high. And one platform that really showcased that was Facebook.
Oh, interesting.
And it really surprised me the amount of people that do business on WhatsApp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So people, WhatsApp is your all-in-one store. You can do your e-commerce, customer service, order stuff and be delivered, to you. And now they have a customer service bots through, WhatsApp.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's interesting because at that time, the news in the media is, Facebook is, going down, and, he's made, bets in the metaverse, and this does not make any sense. I'm just sitting there going, you said that about, cloud solutions. You didn't know what a cloud was.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me investigate. And these emerging markets are just embracing these Web 2.0, technologies, so fast. And now that we have all these Web 3.0 technologies with, AI and crypto and so on, I'm really excited about how fast Africa is going to catch up. Mm-hmm. Right. And so if I can help in any way, and also on the, medical, side, that would be, incredible. So definitely cool. Looking to, collaborate, and despite people listening, to this podcast, this could be our recruitment.
Right. That's great. I mean,
video call to, arms to,
Yeah, that would be great. And honestly, like when I was in Morocco, we met with, the Policy Forum for the New South, and I'm pretty sure I got the name wrong.
Right.
But
can always put it in the comments.
But they're doing incredible work, and it's all of these people who want to make Africa more sustainable and bring it to the, the more technology savvy, and incorporate ag tech, climate tech, all of that into daily life, and how to do that. And they're doing the research on it. And then, you know, there are entities like people like us and people around the world where you can just partner, in, especially in the region, that you can kind of have people from, again, all over different backgrounds come together and create these like really cool things that allow you to like use the technology to your advantage. And it's a very cool way to use our skills for good.
No, absolutely. One example I could give you is during COVID. Mm-hmm. I helped a friend start a foundation called the Fashion Community Foundation. And then because COVID was happening, he wasn't able to do, programs. So some of the things he wanted to do was teach kids about, fashion photography and teach them how to work a camera or, how to draw, dresses or, whatever it is, because with fashion, there's so many, things, that you can do. And he just didn't feel like he could really do that on Zoom. So reconnected, with a relative of mine, and she just started her own makeup, cosmetics business called Mona Beauty. And Mona at the time was partnering with a university in Somaliland, where I'm from, and she created a makeup certificate program. It's British accredited. So I just put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, why don't we start a scholarship?
That's cool.
And we did. So from ideation to execution, and so basically the graduation of the girls, all that happened in 90 days.
Wow.
And it was really incredible.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and we're able to teach the girls about business, skills. We had a dermatologist doctor who taught the girls and the women about skincare, so it was really powerful. So I would say since 2020 we've graduated over 200.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And the stories are just incredible. I was only there for a week last year, so I wasn't able to meet many of the young ladies that graduated from the program, but I met one, and the impact of such a small scholarship was just amazing. And she ended up opening up her own salon.
Wow.
And then she got a job with the mayor. And she's working on programs for women.
Wow.
Advocating on behalf of women. I was just like, oh my God.
That's amazing.
I'm going to cry like a little kid now. I'm going to cry. Yeah.
That's so moving. I mean, and again, you just like one decision.
From your couch.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where the world is headed, right?
Yeah.
Like COVID really shook everybody.
Sure.
And a lot of people lost their jobs or were unemployed. And it got me thinking, right? I was very fortunate and able to work from anywhere that has Wi-Fi. So I was able to work from my couch, and it got me thinking about those tools, like you were saying, like how can you do all of this from the comfort of your own home, and make it accessible for everybody. And like these coding seminars, makeup seminars, whatever, you can develop all of this stuff for kids. And I say kids, but like coding really needs to start early now.
Early,
right?
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
we're not in 2004 anymore, but
when you say coding, right? When we say coding, it gives it a connotation where it's like, oh, that's something that someone who's in professional services, does. It's applied mathematics.
Right. It's
just more advanced version of math.
And math. Yeah. And it's honestly, and it's a language, right?
It's a language, yeah.
If you can learn how to speak a language, you can learn how to code. And there are a lot of languages that are very easy to pick up. And again, it gives you that skill set that just kind of pushes you.
For
over
sure.
the
I
edge.
mean, what is ChatGPT?
Exactly.
It's an LLM. And what's an LLM? Large language model.
Yeah.
And I speak 16 dialects in Arabic. Does that make me an LLM?
I think so. I think it might.
Yeah, you should see my friends always asking me to translate when we're out.
Oh, that's funny.
It's absolutely hilarious. And I'm like, oh, ask Google. And no, Google's not perfect. You tell us, because you can tell us in a story format. And I'm like, maybe I should start another business and do a children's book.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
In 100 different dialects.
100 different dialects. There you go. Yeah. I mean, I have Sean Michael Warren, so he can illustrate. That's it. Boom, done. See, this is why I love doing the podcast, because every time on the
new
podcast, ideas, new opportunities, and it's organic, right? And I was in a meeting yesterday with an organization that does workforce development for refugees, and they're looking at starting a podcast, and they want me, to advise them. And one of the things that my friend Nariman and I told him is like, you gotta just think of it as you're building a media company. So if you look at it that way, then you're gonna understand that it's gonna take a lot of work.
Yeah.
Because there's and think of it as a brand. And so do all that hard work before you even start, recording.
Right.
And who are you targeting? And develop different personas and all of that. So that was really cool, because I never thought that I would be giving tips on podcasting. But
that's cool.
I guess some of it was the lessons from doing all those recordings at Mala, but then also working with these guys from the Chicago podcasting. They know what's up, just make things easy, and you just professionals, and I just come in and do my thing, and I know what I'm gonna get. But a lot of that hard work was done in the beginning, to make sure that the expectations were set, and you're on set, you just have a good time, so my advice was like, do the boring stuff, hard stuff, first, and then later on things are just
fun.
Just keep it fun. We talked obviously a lot about tech and science and medicine, and we're living in an interesting age, right? Because of TikTok and kids wanting to be, TikTok influencers and YouTube, influencers. How do we get them excited about STEM?
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
And again, during COVID, a lot of things were really clear to me. That one, there was a lot of fear when it came to science and technology, right? Because most people's basic science understanding is high school, freshman year of high school. And even then, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? Like, how does that apply to my life?
Sure.
And I see it in medicine. I see it in science, and being able to convey the importance and the good that's out there is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so also something that I was looking into is like how to make science fun for kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is this cool? So when I was working in the lab, we'd have high school kids come through, and DNA is a polymer. So it's many bits of the same thing repeated over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And
sounds like a metaphor for life.
Yes. And it is the building block of life. And what I find truly inspiring about DNA, it's my favorite molecule. Like, I have a necklace that's an adenine, which is a base pair, or one of the bases of DNA. My lamps in my house are like DNA helices. You're talking to a real nerd.
It's all right.
And
this is why the podcast was born. Assemble all the nerds.
Exactly. So what's cool is you can start out in your house. Anything in your house can be something that you can extract DNA from. You can extract your own cheek cell DNA from the comfort of your own home using household products. And it's cool. And you can do that with kids, right? Like you can say like, okay, and then you can kind of build, what is this? And do it together as a family, right? Like you can do that with even nieces, nephews, whoever, anybody in your house. And even my grandma, who's not a young woman, was like, this is cool. Like you can do it from strawberries. You can do it, any fruit or vegetable that's your favorite. You can do this. And again, and then you get more curious, right? Like it builds that curiosity and to make things more fun, to make it more interactive, right? Like science should not be boring. It should be a playground. And that's something that I was taught very early on, is like, this is something that should be like the sky's the limit. It piques curiosity. It's like, okay, we have this thing. How do we understand it? What don't we know about it? What can we learn from it? If I mess things up in this DNA, what happens? And then how do you analyze it, right? And that's where the bench science and the computers come in. So you can do your experiments, whether it's, mucking up a gene, and then you can sequence that and say, okay, what happened? You can look at that in a cell and like the actual physical interactions of the cell. And then you can also look at on a molecular level through your computer tools, what changed on the global scale. And my hope is scientists, and I think, again, my AJC experience really helped me to be able to convey what I do for a living and what science, like what cool things are happening in the med tech world to non-scientists, right? And I think we have to do better at making this a little bit more interesting and make TikTok videos about how cool like science is and like what's going on. Like when I was like people were doing like weird, funny things. Like they would do parody videos about their lab using like a Lady Gaga soundtrack.
That's funny.
And it was great. It was hysterical. And it was like, oh yeah, science is fun. Like you get dry ice when you get something shipped. Do something cool. Put some like dish soap and a little water with some dry ice in your kitchen sink, and you'll have bubbles with like the little, like the smoke in it, and you can pop it. Again, that's science. It's fun. You can interact with it. And yeah, it shouldn't be this boring, lame-o thing.
No, I agree. And I was always interested in my science classes when I was in the lab. But when I had to read a book, I'm like, not so much.
Yeah.
So I think it would be interesting if video games, can play.
I mean, they have those things now. Like they have things for kids for like coding and some science things where it's a video game, but you're actually learning basic coding skills.
That's right.
And, I just bought a friend of mine, her daughter, a coding robot. And like, it's this robot that she can program what it can do based on the tiles she lays out. And it's 100% what I learned in college in like my first coding class. I was like, this is cool. Where was this when I was in school?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need to re-examine education and how we educate because people want to be entertained and quickly, and science takes time to learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to make a fun series about, what happens in a cell And how does that apply to you, right?
Maybe it's your next.
It's my next venture.
Your YouTube channel.
I could. I think that's a really cool idea. Yeah, and again, COVID kind of sparked all of this where I was like, vaccination became scary and like understanding vaccines became scary.
Oh,
and
you mean
like
Bill Gates didn't put a chip in me?
right. Like I can speak fluent Russian now. Like, and what is this foreign thing you're putting into your body?
Yes.
And it's like, we put a lot of things into our bodies and on our bodies all the time, and we don't even think about it.
But I don't want to be a part of the matrix.
Right.
So.
And then I also think personally, and not to politicize things, but when it comes down to public health, it should be the healthcare professionals running the show.
Oh, you mean my YouTube degree?
Right.
Does not matter?
No. And when it comes down to, and I hate to be this person, but when it comes down to science and health, opinions don't matter, right? Like the facts matter, and being able to live matters. And when people get clouded by the noise, we all suffer.
We all suffer, yeah. I mean, it was a brutal time because
Right.
people just copy and paste on Facebook
Yep.
and really don't even have an argument.
Right.
The statement would be, I'm just going to leave this here.
Yeah. And it's whoever
That's
wants
like
to
you
put things out.
That's like you dropped a time bomb.
Right? It's like screaming fire in a public area. Like you can't do that. That's illegal, right?
Yeah,
like
you can't do that.
But then it's also, I think with COVID, I think it came off of the time where there was a lot of fear with vaccines and autism.
That's right.
And so you come off of one set of fears into another. And again, COVID was a
measles outbreak.
Right. And like kids are getting measles and kids are getting, like these, medieval diseases because
That were eradicated.
right. And, Jonas Salk is rolling in his grave. It's like polio's back, right? Like how? And again, I think it comes down to really conveying a sense of trust in the population about what's going on. And I think we have another set of problems. And I guess it's not a simple thing, right? We have pharma companies that benefit off of sick people. And so it's a catch-22.
I just watched the Purdue Pharma.
Oh man. And I cried.
What
I
evil?
cried
What evil was that?
the whole time. It was horrendous. And like the number of people that perished because of that whole thing was unnecessary. And again, I think those things inspire fear, and we have to know about it, right? Like I'm not saying, cover it up. I'm saying we have a responsibility to inform our gen population on what's good for them. And it has to be coming from an unbiased entity. So it can't be from your pharma commercial. It can't be from your doctor's office that's associated with a gigantic medical institution that partners with this other gigantic thing. It has to be from like the science community at large, that we're not tied to these. I'm not bought and paid for. Yeah. I'm me.
Peer reviewed.
Right. Like, and again, like things happen, right? Like everybody's human but I think we really need to help more than hurt.
I think that's community also responded. I've seen my doctor friends get more active on social media to combat misinformation. But before they're like, oh, I'm not a social media person. I'm not using it. And for me, it's a tool. You can use it for negative purposes or to spread positivity. I created Mala on Facebook brand model for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
On Facebook, did a lot of good work, with Facebook. They, became a client. It's at some point, So, but it's because I have that background. Mm-hmm. I'd understand that. Hey, this is a tool that's an amplification, tool.
Yeah.
It's built to build networks.
Mm-hmm. But how do you get past? I guess this is where I get bogged down, I think, and discouraged, is the algorithms, right? Like your TikTok algorithm, your Instagram algorithm, it's based on the things that you watch, right? Like it's a machine learning tool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so if you're scrolling past or you don't want to see it, then you're not going to.
Right.
And so, like, how do you break through to reach everyone? And that's where I'm like, I don't know. Is it like public television? Like PBS, Sesame Street. Like, I mean, I feel like that's kind of where you start. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can still still do that, right? Mm-hmm. It was interesting. There are protest movements where it was just started by makeup artists.
Yeah.
And you see a makeup tutorial and then you go, oh, it's just another makeup video. But then you click on the comments and you go, wow, there's a spirited debate happening here. So
that's
on
true.
The surface, it might look like, this is shallow. But then it was just a new generation's way, of, communicating. And then the older generation trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? Does this make any sense? I'm more worried about my parents than, younger people, because during COVID, I had to take my mom's WhatsApp and say, so much misinformation being delivered through WhatsApp, but it's not delivered by Facebook. It's delivered by human beings that are using, WhatsApp, right? So if I pick up the phone and call people around town and give them misinformation, that's me using the phone. It's the same thing with, WhatsApp. Facebook as a corporation is not publishing, and I don't work for Facebook, and they're not a client, right now. But that could be said about LinkedIn or any other, a tool, Right. So, but because it became such a big problem, they had to hire so many, moderators and. But it's tough because it's a global, platform. So what I decided to do is to try to educate, people on best practices.
Okay.
For Facebook and for these, tools, and also, parents, right? And believe it or not, a lot of misinformation were being delivered by parents.
Yep.
I'm like, no, you're the adult.
Yeah, and I think your brain gets clouded because once you have a kid, all you want to do is keep them safe. It's irrational, right? Like your logical brain leaves because like this person is the most important thing in the whole world, and like logic be gone.
Right.
And so when it comes down to like the vaccines, rational, scientific parents got scared because your brain is like, no, I know this is fine. But then there's this baby in front of you. You're like, what if something happens? And again, all logic disappears.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, it's hard. I get it. I'm like,
I have to speak to a neurologist about that. Or a psychologist.
Right. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we could do in terms of getting people interested. And even like the older generation, like they're also, nervous about technology, right? Like how have you ever tried to help your parents like do something technological.
Oh yeah, I mean they were totally nervous about technology before COVID.
Yeah.
After COVID happened, it's like, oh yeah, set up my Zoom. I'm like, excuse me? Since when do you
Right?
use Zoom?
Yep. Like scrolling on Instagram,
Yep.
you're like 6-year-old. You're like, okay.
It's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, what a crisis, can do. But I mean, it's almost like just
You're kind of pushed into it. You have to.
pushed into the future.
Yeah.
I
I think it's good. I think humans are.
Net positive.
Yes, I think humans are more adaptable than
Yeah.
we give ourselves credit for, and we're scared of change. I mean,
But we eventually figure it
but
out.
we'll figure it out. And like I was saying earlier, the AI stuff seems scary now, but I think if we use it in the right way, it will benefit society more than hurt. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, my last question is, you are, I mean, I should have referred to you as Dr. Lauren.
yeah, thank
Ogle.
you.
Yes, and you have a PhD.
I do.
Lots of hard work. What advice do you have for young people that might have an interest in science and might want to become scientists?
That's a good question. Take your time. Don't be in a rush. Get excited about it. Learn about it. I think my advice to my younger self would be enjoy that part of life. Enjoy the exploration. Enjoy learning science for fun when you're in school, when you don't need a job to like pay your bills. Right? Like, college is meant for that exploration. So, whether it's neuroscience or psychology or biology or, genomics, whatever, explore, have fun with it, and really, really get to know it. I think that's the part that I would always tell myself is, and listen to your gut, right? Like and again, mentorship is also most important. And I got very lucky throughout my life that I have had really incredible mentors and really incredible bosses that allowed me to explore and be curious and launched me into the field that I want. And, find those people. They exist and they will help. And also, the people in your lab or the people in your major, they will become your resources and your friends forever and your family. And don't take that for granted because it's hard. It's hard to keep in touch. But yeah, I think it's a process. The whole going from figuring out you want to pursue science to, a career in it. It's a long process. And like I said, the science world is extremely small. And building those connections and having that integrity and having that curiosity will only build more community and foster good science. And like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And it's very cool to see how you're connected to the people around you, whether it's here in Chicago or, all over the world. It's everybody in the science world. We're all wanting everybody to succeed. And so, and again, if anybody listening wants to reach out, internships are huge. There's like summer research programs for college students that are like paid for. There's a lot of amazing opportunities that you can find to build that. And then if you're also interested in like bioinformatics, Coursera, right? Like you have again, things at your fingertips. YouTube, the GDC, which is the Genomic Data Commons that we work for, we have a webinar. So you can learn about the organization and also the data that we have much more in depth. And then you can also use the portal to explore. So again, there's 1,000 resources out there, and when you're young, you have time.
Oh, for sure.
And you have time to explore it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the part that I miss. It's just like having that time to just explore and do all that fun stuff.
It's a journey.
It is.
So, what's interesting is you mentioned Coursera.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point that I was thinking of getting my master's, and I developed a strategy where I would travel to different universities just to check them out and go on a Thursday and sit in for a class and then hang out with the students, so it was part.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. It's part, vacation, part research, and I had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at Stanford, I stayed there for maybe a week or maybe longer because a friend of mine was going to medical school. He went to Loyola, actually. He played soccer at Loyola, but he was studying to be an orthopedic surgeon. He's an orthopedic surgeon right now.
Nice.
And also owns a tech startup, which is really cool. I got to introduce you to him. So definitely keep a note of that. His name is Dr. Malcolm. And when we were there, just being there in Stanford, it's a completely different experience. And I saw the iPad for the first time. And they were the first class to receive, the iPad. They were freshmen, students from medical school. But then also, while I was there, I was, sitting in different classes. They had all these VCs that would come and, teach, and they'll play different roles like Android versus iOS and so on. I mean, this is early days. And then I heard about, I believe it was 2 professors that were starting Coursera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was on the ground, and it was only offered to Stanford students. And it was one class, and it was called Startup Engineering. And I got in, and I called my good friend Al, who's an incredible software engineer, and I gave him the link, and I was like, hey, I somehow got in without a Stanford email. You should do it too. And it was amazing. I mean, I haven't, because I worked in IT early on. In college, I was a computer science major, and then I went and did accounting and finance, worked in investment banking, did, consulting, marketing, and then so I was always, in touch with everything that was new in IT, but with cloud solutions and AWS and GitHub, that's when I learned about all of that, was through that one class. And so it was like an entire computer science major in one class.
Yeah.
And what they did was they taught you how to build a Bitcoin website from scratch.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Incredible. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I gotta email those 2 professors who started Coursera, because it really changed my life. Then I decided I'm not gonna go get my master's, because I would rather take classes on Coursera every year and develop my own master's program. So right now I'm completing a certificate a program. It's a specialized certificate from IBM on applied, intelligence, because cool. I was like, why not? Learn Python, learn build my own, bots, in case somebody, might need it. And guess what? We built a bot for one of our clients who is a non-for-profit.
Cool.
And so the bot, answers, questions, and just makes his life, easier and gets you to donate, faster, right? So Coursera is just a powerful tool, but there's Udemy and all these other e-learning, platforms. So what I always tell young people is like, don't really worry about, what you're passionate about or what you're going to be doing in the future. Focus on just acquiring as many skills as possible. Because if you can create, value, you're always going to find work because you're generating value.
And the skills are transferable.
Exactly.
Right? Like, who knows what'll happen in the future, but if you have any sort of analytical,
we know there's more robots coming.
Exactly.
And when they break down, I give the example of the grocery, checkout and, Mariano's. And it does not mean like there's nobody working at Mariano's anymore just because they have those kiosks. And, and if something happens, you got someone that's trained to like override it.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're going to always need people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having skills, I think you're right, is really important, and a whole slew of them, right? Like you can't, not just one set, get all the skills you can acquire.
Exactly.
And talk to people. I think that's something that I learned later in life. I was very shy.
Yeah.
As a kid. And I was actually put in performing arts to, lose that shy, like very quiet, stay in the background type of personality. So I kind of straddle that line, the scientist that likes to be, clicking away and doing experiments on a computer, but also having that person-to-person interaction, that's so hugely important. So yeah, I think that like this is...
Yeah, you got to find that balance between left brain, right brain, right? Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there. I mean, we could be talking for hours, but we have our planning for our Africa.
That's right.
Summit.
We'll also have to travel there. So.
Exactly. People will find out more when they join us for season 3. Wow.
Ooh.
We're already talking about season 3. Where does time go? But Dr. Lauren, thank you so much for being here on the show and really sharing your story, your journey, your wisdom, and looking forward, to obviously continuing our, friendship and all the exciting, things we're going to be doing together for betterment of humanity.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. This was really special and my first podcast. So
what?
Thank you.
Oh,
this is great.
I should have brought cake.